in different sectors, different companies at different levels in planning, accounting, financial analyst, marketing, head of marketing in a bank, product management, head of planning in a bank, senior analyst, expense management in Scotia, financial advisor, etc. for a number of years. I've been a chartered management accountant from the UK, which is ACMA since 1999. I'm a consultant CMA with the Certified Management Accountants of Ontario. I'm licensed to offer accounting and business consulting, etc., tax services to the public. I'm also a financial management advisor with the Canadian Securities Institute, which is a wealth management designation to advise high net worth clients. So half of my business is wealth management, the other half is small business. And I also have a marketing division called Chartered Marketer for Hire. And that's because I'm a chartered marketer here from the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK, completed a postgrad in marketing. And after a number of years marketing management experience, doing my CPD, etc., you're then awarded the highest designation, which is Chartered Marketer. I'm a former member of the board of directors of the Chartered Institute of Management Canada. I'm currently on the board of a company called MAM Professional Consultants, and the facilitator in the Canadian Business Ethics course at the Microskills Development Center. I was also a former lecturer in accounting.
You kept yourself busy.
Yeah, I've been very busy. So I tell people, I have a young-looking face, but I have an old mind. I've been through a lot at different levels. I was with senior executives in different companies, etc.
Experience, mind.
Yes. So, oops. Retail. I'm now getting accustomed with my new projector here. It's working very well. Yeah, so just a quick bit about my company, Stratking Advisory Services, formed in 2011. We offer wealth management services for professionals. As you can see, we only focus on professionals. That's our target market. And professionals who own their own businesses, so professional services firms, professional corporations, self-employed professionals, including real estate agents like yourself and brokers. We do insurance, investments, financial planning, tax planning, etc. with the wealth management division. On the insurance side, we are also a life insurance agency. Approximately, it's now around 20 insurance companies and about 5 travel insurance companies, a brokerage. And we do investments through Peak Investment Services Inc. out of Quebec. And so we have put a lot of infrastructure in place in the last 2 years. We also provide professional services for small businesses. We have a website called Stratking Small Business, where we promote our accounting, tax returns, bookkeeping, business consulting, and business plan services. As of last week, I launched our electronic payroll processing. So my first client, major client, is a restaurant downtown, 19 employees. So we can transition them from manual check payments of their staff to electronic payroll processing last week. So this is a big move for them, over 30 years in the business. I was able to transition them in just 2 weeks from their previous accountant who issued checks. Of course, that has a lot of efficiencies in terms of paying staff efficiently and reducing error rates, etc. I have a division called Chartered Marketer for Hire. Again, it focuses on providing marketing planning and marketing support services to professionals and professional services firms. If someone asks me what's the core of my business, it's strategy to make money, helping them devise strategy, planning the strategy, executing the strategy, providing long-term support, and also backing it with the financial solutions, insurance to both businesses and personal, and business and personal investments, etc. And also the employee benefits for the staff of the professional services firm. Just moving forward. So today, I'd like to quickly talk about what is a business plan, the benefits of a business plan, the business planning cycle, the contents of a business plan, tips to make a winning business plan, and should you do it yourself, and just some closing remarks at the end. Of course, if you need to ask me a question, Bill, you could always raise your hand. So the first point here is, what is a business plan? Wikipedia says that a business plan is a formal document, a formal statement of a set of business goals. So when we talk about goals and objectives, we should talk about SMART objectives: specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bounded. If we don't put a formal statement, put it in writing, representing what management vision is for the future, we are not likely to achieve it. In fact, the Holy Bible talks about that people without vision would perish. So one must have a vision for the future, put it down in writing, and then put in place an action plan of how to get there. It's also a marketing document to raise financing and present the business in a very positive light. It contains background information about the organization or team attempting to reach those goals. You know, when I'm working with professionals, I say when you come in to do the business plan, I'd like to see your resume, I'd like to see your bio, all right? I'll bring some client testimonials, etc. They're surprised because no one have ever asked them to do that. And the reason being is that if you're a self-employed professional or you're the board in the company, of course, it's always pays to show where you came from, your skills, your training, and also that of the management team, which would be a part of the addendum in the business plan. So we'll be putting resumes, etc., and client testimonials, etc., in the back of the business plan. It's a written document that describes in detail how a new business is going to achieve its goal. A business plan will lay out a written plan from a marketing, financial, and operational viewpoint. Sometimes a business plan is prepared for an established business that is moving in a new direction. So what could be some of the benefits of a business plan? It's a document to show potential investors and lenders to raise finance. It's a roadmap for achieving the business objectives. You know, I like to think about the business plan as the GPS for the business. You won't go on a journey, especially a long journey, without your GPS, right, in foreign territory. So some people going into new markets, new countries, etc., and they think they could do it without a business plan and find their way to the destination and their way back. So the way back might be, what's your exit strategy for the business and how would you transition the business to the next generation? That might be the exit plan. A lot of venture capital investors want to see not only how you intend to make money, but what would be the exit strategy for them when it's the time to exit for the business, which is usually around 7 years, and they like to see upwards of 50–60% return. Help business owners focus on what matters. Better control of all areas of the business. And we'll talk later on about using the balanced scorecard approach to planning, where we'll be looking at the 4 key perspectives that a business needs to look at. When I was the manager of planning and product management in the bank in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the projects I had was designing a balanced scorecard reporting system for the board of directors. So I had to reconfigure the whole financial statements, etc., in a balanced scorecard format, which went into the board reports. And when we were doing the strategic plan, we did it, the balanced scorecard objectives, and drilled down into the financial statements. So what there was is a complete alignment of the strategic vision and objectives of the business with the micro financial statements and operational statements that existed at that point in time. And I would say that within 1 year of going into the retail banking division, we made it the most profitable division in one year and launched the first internet banking service in the Caribbean. 5, address weaknesses and pursue new opportunities for existing businesses. Of course, that would, for those of us who may be familiar with the SWOT analysis, do you know what the SWOT analysis is? It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, where you're matching your strengths with your weaknesses, and you're looking at your threats and your weaknesses in relation to your threats. But the first idea is, okay, what are my strengths, and how could I quickly or efficiently and effectively match my strengths with my opportunities? So, you have over 50 years in sales and real estate, you most likely have a very strong warm market. So your expertise and your network is a strength. So what opportunities in the area could you match that strength with at this point in time or in the next quarter? And that's a key question if you want to have a very rapid execution of strategies if you don't have much capital. So you said you like cold calling, or you're very comfortable with calling.
So that's a very low-cost approach, and I like low-cost marketing. So if you can not spend money by calling someone, even from a directory, why would you spend thousands of dollars with a direct mail campaign when your strength is calling people? And it may just mean calling people you know and ask them if they know someone who is selling their home or who might be thinking of buying a home in the future. And it's very good to look at what's happening in Facebook, etc., because social media is a good thing. This is where the market is going. Over 50% of Americans are on Facebook, for instance, and they always post things with they getting married, they had a baby and stuff like that. And when the family is growing, more babies come, more homes, bigger homes are required, or they need a house. So guess who's going to help them? The guy with the 50 years experience. And so, how effective are you with keeping in the pulse of the market and addressing that gap that exists between your strengths and your opportunities and your weaknesses and your threats? Because every day there's a new real estate agent coming on with a license, and he's just going to try to take away your market share. And so, what is the defense are you going to put around those new ones who are coming out to protect your turf, as it were? So when do we typically need a business plan? If you're starting a new business, it's very, very important because you need to get financing. You probably need to get business partners involved, and they would want to see the business plan. The bank would want to see the business plan if you're seeking additional capital for existing product lines, or even if you're starting a business. Of course, we know about Canadian business loans, where the government would finance up to 90%, but the bank would offer the loan based on the guarantee of the government and personal security of the lender. 3, launching a new service or product. When we're launching a new product, we usually have a product committee that will come together, and the finance person will come up with a financial proposal, and that will outline what's the capital needed to launch the product or service. Now, a lot of businesses don't do that. They don't quantify what's the capital needed to launch a new service. So what ends up happening, 4 months after the launch, they didn't achieve their targets, and they don't have cash. The company doesn't have cash. It's because what happened is they created a vacuum hole. Money went to support this product. It wasn't backed with adequate capital, and it sucks the life out of the business. So even if you're launching a new service or product, what you have is a product or service business plan for that particular service. It must have a person responsible for that product or service to drive that product, to be accountable for it, and to report to senior management. And I have seen that works very effectively. So let's talk about the business planning cycle. As you can see, it's a circle. It's not a straight line. It's a circle. We start off with a planning. And we start off with the goals. I mentioned before that goals must be specific. We intend to achieve a sales of $3 million in 2013. So, okay, where are we now? Specific. 2, action-oriented. So, if that's $3 million for the year, what must we do each quarter to get that $3 million at the end of the year? It must be results-oriented. And the results is that if we generated this $3 million in sales, we would have a net profit of $250,000. And it must be time-bounded. Of course, the time frame is 1 year. So, we have the business plan. But when I'm doing a business plan, I want to see a marketing plan in the business plan, because unless the business plan has a marketing orientation, it would not succeed. Because, as I said, a lot of people come to me either for a second opinion on the business plan or to get a new one done, and they mostly think about financials, to get financials to the bank. Okay? But, hi.
Hi. Sorry, we were wandering around forever lost.
Okay, sorry. We're about 5-10 minutes in. I
Okay.
started at 9:15, so you're not too late.
We will catch up as fast as we
Okay.
can.
Feel free to ask any questions.
Okay, thanks.
You might just share with me what business line also you're in, so I might be able to...
Web design and marketing and
Okay.
a musician.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. I'm Dane King.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no problem.
And this is Bill in front. Bill is a very experienced real
Hi,
estate
Bill.
agent in the area. Yeah. So I was talking about planning. I was talking about the fact that with a business plan, you need to put it through the business planning cycle, which is a circle.
Right.
It's a process which keeps going on and on. And I was talking about SMART objectives: specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bounded. And I was also saying that in a business plan, we want to have a marketing plan in the business plan, because we want to have the business plan reflecting a marketing perspective in terms of who is your customer. You know, I was working on a business plan last week for a massage therapy and chiropractic clinic. And the guy has already leased the property. Okay, and he came to get me to do the business plan to get financing, all right, for the bank. So I asked him, who is your ideal client? We spent 2 hours together, and after the 2 hours, he wasn't able to verbalize what is his ideal plan, and I had to basically help him to determine what his ideal client might look like. And two, I would also do research on the sector and come up with a business plan. That was my responsibility. But the point I'm making there is that if you don't know who your target market is and who your client looks like, it is impossible to develop a marketing plan, and it is impossible to develop an accurate business plan.
Right.
And if you watch Dragon's Den and stuff like that, the key thing they want to know is, what are you going to do marketing? How are you going to get new clients? And if you can't address that very effectively, in terms of who is your clients and how you're going to find them and attract them, most likely the business plan isn't going to pass. Okay? So we must take a lot of good time planning. And planning doesn't always involve putting something in writing and just implementing it, which would be the next stage. You know what planning is? I've launched my business 2 years now, and I'm still planning. You know why? Because I have everything you see around here is prototypes. Okay, it's mock-ups. It's not nothing you see today is the final. All right? I'm doing market testing, so all this is research. Okay? So what happens after a while? I get feedback from my target market as to what they think about my products and services, etc. All right? Some assumptions are made about my business. I might find that I was wrong. So I'll give you an example. When I started off the business, I started off on small business services and wealth management services. And then I deliberately did that because I didn't want the competition to know what I was targeting, intentionally going to target, because I don't have resources like the banks, right?
Right.
So when I had more infrastructure in place, then I came out with full service firms for professionals and small businesses, right? And it started off wide broad, and then it's narrowing down, it's going down into the funnel. Not that I didn't know where I was headed. I know what's the end point, but you need to plan what you need to get there and test the market and adjust as it goes by. I think you should only go for serious financing, because that's a risk when you take on debt and you don't have a good business plan and you don't have a good strategy, high risk of failing. Only go for big financing when you have that plan tested by your research, by your client feedback, etc. So you have testimonials, you have work that you've done with people, then actually it makes sense getting huge capital investments and business partners, etc. Then the next stage is implementation. So you have done the business plan and you need to implement. How could you implement a business plan? Anybody want to guess?
How to make it happen, you mean?
Yeah, how do you execute a business plan?
Oh, that's what I'm here to learn.
Sorry?
That's what I'm here to learn. I started my own business without a business plan.
Oh, I see.
But with him, we're trying to create a business plan for him,
Right,
because we're about
right.
to start asking for sponsorship. So
Yes.
we need to have a business plan in place
Right,
before we
yes,
take it
it's
to
a
the
marketing document. yeah.
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. So I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, so your business plan is the foundation for putting up the house. All right. So how could you put on a foundation and you don't have the people to actually build the rooms? You don't have the plumber to put in the plumbing. You don't have the electrician. All right. So of course, when you plan for your resources, you need to get the resources to implement the business plan. So if I'm saying that I am a full service firm for professionals and small businesses, and I'm offering these services, the question is, in my business now, if someone walked in the door, is there anybody in the business who could do these things and do it well? All right? So okay, so we need to get the people in and we need to train them, but we need to also have a control document to ensure that we could execute this business plan properly. So the next thing that comes, other than the marketing plan, which would have been part of the business plan, is quarterly action programs of what we're going to do every quarter. So the first quarter might have been recruiting these plumbers and contractors and graphic designers and things like that. All right? And the second quarter, maybe fine-tuning. All right? And going into different marketing phase. The other issue is budget. So in the year, you plan to make $3 million in revenue, and you plan to spend $2 million in expenses to make a net profit of $1 million. Okay? So for that budget or plan for the year has to now form the basis for your budget for the year. Okay? Which would form your operating control document, the control operation. So in your profit and loss statement, you want to have your actual performance, your revenue and expenses, and you want to have a line for your budgeted expenses. And that's how you keep in control of your expenses and not going overboard with your spending or tracking on where you are on your revenue. Review. How long do you take after you implement to review what you have done to see how you are doing? What's the best practice on that?
Every 3 months, you mean, once you've had your...
Yeah, I like every 3 months. I do it very well every 3 months. I sit down for at least half day every quarter and go over what I've done for the last quarter, where I am in terms of my budget, okay, and what I need to tweak for the next future. So I'm always, for the next quarter, I'm always thinking ahead. You're only using the past to give you teach you a lesson as to what you could have learned. So what could I have learned from the last 3 months that I can now use moving forward? Control. And I mentioned the variance statement in comparing your actual versus your budget. And then that's from a control, operational control. And then you take corrective action. Now, to take corrective action, you need to analyze the control statements, fair enough? What they call the variance statement. And maybe after you analyze, you need to go back to the drawing board and plan for the next quarter. You may have planned something for the next quarter, but your last quarter told you that something isn't here yet. We need more financing, we need a different person, we need to train this person, we need to get a direct mail letter or something like that. And then it goes over. And then there's the issue of rolling budgets and revising your strat plan every year and stuff like that to always keep at the peak of performance. So we have marketing, musician, real estate, professionals, okay? So services, you're offering a service, music service, marketing service, real estate service. So it's good that I'm talking about a services business plan here. What would typically look like the high level contents of a services business plan. So we want to have the cover page, the name of the business, the logo, the tagline, and the contact information. That's particularly important when you're going for financing, for venture capital investors, etc. Of course, they need to have an address to get in contact with you afterwards and contact you. By the way, just a little distraction. This is a picture from my business plan website on stratking.org.
This picture here is one of the graphics on my business plan page.
So one thing I must say though, that people are very graphic oriented. And that if you use a lot of graphs and pictures, etc. in your plan, it will make it more appealing and user friendly. At the end of the day, avoid jargon, etc. and keep things simple. Executive summary. The executive summary should not be more than 2 pages, and you only write the executive summary after you've finished the whole business plan. Because the executive summary is your summary of your plan for the executive to make a decision. And it will contain what's the business opportunity. I was mentioning to Bill, when you're doing your SWOT analysis as part of your business plan, you want to match your strengths with your opportunities. You want to match your threats, your weaknesses with your threats in the competitive environment. So what's the business opportunity that this business plan is going to address? The product or service description. You have to be able to describe your service. So Dane, what is your firm? My firm is the full service firm for professionals and professionally owned small businesses. And what do? Well, I help them develop and execute strategy to make more money. Dane, what do you mean by that? Well, we help them do that by providing them with professional services to help them make a profit, marketing, accounting, and with the professionals, we help them with the wealth management in terms of financial planning, blah, blah, blah. So, you ever heard about the 30-second script, elevator speech, elevator pitch? All right? Could you say in 30 seconds, basically what you do for a living and the benefit that you offer to a potential client? And if you can't say your elevator speech with a feature and a benefit to motivate somebody to ask you another question, if they don't, especially if they don't ask you a question, you know your elevator pitch is not good enough, and then you have to rework it, okay? But it must be standard where you don't think about saying it after a while, because you know your business so well. Current business position in relation to the market, the economy, the competition, and your clients, financial potential, and the request. So typically, one thing I do with clients is I talk with their banker upfront when I'm doing the business plan, because I want to know, when does the banker expect to see a profit in this business plan? Is it in 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Because it varies from one bank to the next. So what happens when someone comes to see me to do a business plan, I ask them, who's your banker that you're going to get the loan from? And I start talking with that person, and I need to get an impression from them is what kind of financial potential they need. Do they need to see a profit? In what period? And how much? They will also have some ideas as to what kind of revenue certain type of businesses do as well. Okay? Company background, business description, current position, and business objectives, and ownership. 3, services, service description, competitive comparison, and service delivery. Could you list down who are your 3 largest competitors in your trade area? What is unique about them? And how does your business differ from them? Do we know that?
Again, list the 3 competitors.
3 competitors,
Yeah.
your largest competitors.
Yeah.
What is unique about them? How do you compete? How do you differentiate yourself from them? Okay, so there are 3 generic competitive strategies. You'll see it in that slide. And one thing about me, I'm a past lecturer and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm talking here about something I have in a slide later down. So if you see when I reach later down and I go through a slide, it's because I talked about it earlier.
Okay.
Right? So Michael Porter. And my students always used to tell me, Mr. King, you write too fast. And that is Michael Porter. So he has the competitive strategies that he wrote about, the generic strategies, right? It's either a cost leadership strategy, a focus strategy, or a differentiation strategy. Right? So, do you intend, what position you're taking in your market in relation to your competitors? Are you going to be the cost leader? Alright? are you going to compete on costs? And can you? Two, who would you be focusing on? Which target market would you be focusing on? So my business is only focused on professionals and professionally owned small businesses. That's my position in the market. So how do I compete with RBC Wealth Management? They deal with everybody who have money. I'm dealing with only professionals. How do I compete with one of these small business competitors? I only deal with professionally owned small businesses. So that's my focus. Cost leadership. I do business consulting, all right? But my hourly rate is quite lower than the big 4 accounting firms. And the reason being, I don't have their cost structure. So I can compete on cost. Differentiation. How are you differentiating yourself in the market? All right? Are you being unique? Are you being unique? What is unique about you? If you could say what's unique about you, maybe you can create a business based on your uniqueness, based on your strengths. Fair enough? So, are we addressing these issues now? And these are some of the key issues we would have in the business plan that we would be creating. One thing I would like to emphasize is the market size. I think if you aren't able to quantify your market size, then you can't substantiate the numbers you have in your financials in your business plan to see how you logically came up with this. Okay? There might only be 500 professionally owned small businesses in Richmond Hill. Fair enough?
Sure.
And because of that, I need to see, okay, of those 500, what percentage of those could I possibly get? And what's the average revenue I can get? And what would be the profitability based on that? And that ties back to the financials. So unless you could give some idea of your size, your market size, then you would not be able to substantiate your financials. And most importantly, as I mentioned earlier, the customer profile. We move on to item 5, which is the marketing plan. I have a presentation I gave in a meetup, my meetup group called Business Development Group. There's a website. Bill, I don't know if you know about meetup.com?
I don't use the web.
Okay, well, meetup.com, it's something like Facebook, but for networking. And you go into Meetup and you can create a networking group yourself on Meetup. And it has millions of members. So what happens, members from other Meetup networking groups filter into your group so that you get a natural market of people to network with who might be interested in what your group stands for. So last month, I presented on creating the marketing-oriented firm. I was the marketing manager in a bank in Trinidad, and one thing I designed was a transformation agenda to convert the branches into sales, marketing, and service centers. And in doing so, I implemented a customer relationship management system, and within 1 year, the retail banking division was the most profitable. A marketing plan is essential in a business plan. And so we must take a marketing perspective in terms of creating a marketing-oriented firm. And in the context of a services business, we must talk about the service mix. Now, traditional marketing talked about the 4 P's of marketing: price, place, product, and people. But we have now the 12 P's of the service mix. And you all could Google service mix on the internet, and you will find out about either the 7 P's or the 12 P's. The 4 went to 7, and then the 7 went to 12. And it talked about things like physical presence, processes, etc., which add to the experience, the service experience that a client experiences. So when I started off my business, I started in the basement of my house, okay? And I have a Stratking red, which is this color here, okay? It's a very thick orange, close to red, right? So I call it Stratking red. So when someone came in my office, all the walls was painted in my Stratking red, all right? So time you reached in the room, if you went to my website, you then enter the Stratking red, right? So the brand, you personify the brand then, okay? So then they will experience the elevated service that I mentioned. And so the business is taking a marketing perspective, and that everything we do, we have a marketing orientation, and each member of staff has to know what the marketing campaign is for the quarter and be part of it for a firm to really have a marketing oriented firm. There's a big paper I did on that, and I'll be repeating that seminar sometime else. We move to the operational plan. This will talk about the location. You know, they say location is everything. And facility, operating equipment, suppliers and vendors, the personnel plan. I mentioned things about personnel just now. And the general operations. Management, organization, and ownership. What will the org structure look like? Is it going to be a one-man show? That's okay, depending on what you're doing. But is that sustainable? All right? And so the org structure, as this guy drew on the whiteboard there, needs to be thought out very carefully. If you are to move as quickly as you should, especially if you're going to do franchises and move into different geographic locations and stuff. One marketing strategy I learned in international marketing. Of course, I'm a chartered marketer. And when I did my exams, I had to write an international marketing plan in 3 hours with just a case study being provided the first time. That was the toughest exam I ever had. When I was finished, my fingers were hurting me. Writing a business plan, a marketing plan from scratch with just a case study in the exam room. And one of the key things I learned in that part of my training was that you have to be able to conquer the homeland first before you go out of your natural trade area. So, you know, you start off in Richmond Hill, you test your marketing plan, your business plan, and your infrastructure, etc. And then you want to go into Scarborough or whatever. You do that afterwards, but do you have the organizational structure to effect that, right, in terms of the distribution network? So it may not be physical structures, it may be partnerships, strategic partnership. So you may get involved with another real estate agent who has a different skill in a different target market. And you do revenue sharing. I don't know if that's possible in real estate. In Markham, if that person is in Markham and they need to get into Markham, so that means that you can still focus primarily in Richmond Hill, but you have a partnership in Markham, sharing the expenses, and then you're learning from that person who is in Markham already, all right? And it reduces your cost of distribution. We also talk about, besides strategic partnerships, joint ventures, etc., in terms of moving into a different area. What about referral systems? Okay, you don't necessarily have to have staff to do marketing for you. So you can offer a referral, set up a referral program for your clients and suppliers. When they refer a client to you, you give them a $25. All right. You have strategic partners as well with that same concept, which you could put up on your website. So it need not be physical brick and mortar structures you are using in terms of your organizational structure. So it's internal and external resources. 8, goals and strategies, business goals. We talked about SMART goals before. The keys to success. What are the keys to success? You're doing a business plan. Usually the critical, they call it the critical success factors, come out after you do your SWOT analysis and you identify what your strengths is, what your weaknesses are, what your threats are, what your opportunities are. You then look at all of them and you say, well, wait, these are a lot of things, a lot of information I found out by doing this analysis. But what are the critical success factors or the key success factors here that I need to address it? Is it for the next year to ensure that I have a marketing campaign even in the slow periods so that I get a contribution towards my fixed cost? Okay? Because if we immerse ourselves in planning and no money is coming in, what about if the green pasture in the next quarter never materializes because a new situation arises? I don't know, I think very carefully right now of Metro store grocery at the corner of Major Mackenzie and Bayview. I live in that area, and I used to like to go to Metro wide alleys and stuff like that. You know, I like the space. You know, I'm from the island, and we West Indians kind of laid back, right? And I used to like Metro. I used to find Walmart is too congested, too much people, right? So I enjoyed paying a little extra at Metro. So 2 weeks ago, I went to Metro, and as I walked in the grocery, all the produce and so stores are empty. Okay. So when I reached by the reception, the cashier, I said, well, I joked with the cashier, and I said, well, are you all closing now? She says, yes. And she says, she's laid off, and it's just a matter of time, right? She said, so I said, why? She says, they said too many competitors in the area. Walmart came with the superstore and all these different things, right? So when you're thinking that you don't really need to do anything much this quarter, somebody else is going to open a store right next to you, and they want to catch you with your pants down. So you always have to be doing something because somebody else is looking at you. You know, there's something called search engine optimization. Okay. When I was in Scarborough, I optimized my website, Wealth Management Services in Scarborough. I just launched my business. 3 months into launching my business, I put up my website. And when I searched on Google, Wealth Management Services in Scarborough, you know who ended up first on the first page? Above all these big wealth management firms like RBC, Dominion Securities and stuff where I worked at before that have millions of dollars in marketing budget. Dane King, Stratking Advisory Services, Wealth Management Services. It was the first business listed on Google. I didn't pay for it. I did with search engine optimization. So what happened now? I laughed and I said, okay, I can move on to something else. 3 months later, when I do wealth management services in Scarborough to just check if I'm still on the first, I was down to about 9th. And the competitors, a few of them went ahead of me. And it's only because what they do is that they hire someone, they look at your website, see the keywords you're using, they put it in their website, pay some Google for some AdWords and stuff, and then they get over you, right? So the market is never still, okay? So, keys to success and your future plans. 9, financial assumptions, cash plan. Cash is king. Don't underestimate it. This evening, I'm having a wealth seminar because half of my business is wealth management. And I will be teaching them there about the wealth management process. But you cannot have wealth or you cannot have profitability unless you're looking at your cash flow. If you're doing a business, if you have a business and you don't have a cash flow statement, you're not in business. Trust me, you cannot operate a business without a cash flow statement to show how much capital equipment you're going to buy, what software you're going to buy, what your expenses would be, what's coming in, and what would be the deficit. Now, when you look at the cash flow statement and you have a deficit in 1 month, a surplus in 1 month, okay, on average during the year, what's your net cash position? Maybe in the first year you have a net deficit of $20,000. What do you need if you did a cash flow statement and you saw a net deficit for $20,000 for a year? What do you think you might do? What's your name, sir?
Tal.
Tal. What you think? Thanks for coming. What do you think you will have to do if you saw a net deficit in your cash flow statement at $20,000 when you did your planning for the year?
Well, it doesn't take a job, but not just keep.
Yeah, that could be one solution.
I would just get seeking for loans.
Right. So you will most likely need to arrange a line of credit, an operating line of credit, right? Because that's what the operating line of credit is on overdraft. For those times when you don't have enough cash in your bank account, that is covered, okay? So unless you did the planning up front, you wouldn't know that you needed a line of credit of that amount, all right? And it avoids you being caught with your pants down or skirt down, as the case is, right? That's what good planning is. So the point I want to make about cash is king, is that cash flow creates wealth. Cash flow creates profitability. Cash flow is the key, one of the key indicators you look for. How do you increase cash flow? You reduce expenses, you increase revenue, you reduce service charges, you reduce interest, you increase the return on your investments, the return on your business, etc., and then cash flow increases. Fair enough? So, do you have the strategies in your business plan to optimize the cash that you're putting into the business plan? And is the cash that you're committing into the business reasonable given your org structure and the resources you need, your operational plan, your marketing plan, etc.? A business launch, year 1 to 2, what percentage of your revenue you need to project in your business plan in the first year or 2, if you're in business?
Sorry, what's that again?
It's now started a business, year 1 or year 2. What percentage of revenue you think you need to spend on marketing in the first year or 2?
A higher percentage in the first year.
Like what?
Oh, I see.
Like what percentage? Yeah.
Marketing in the first year
Yeah.
would be 30%.
That's a little high. It could reach that amount, but I like to see between 10 and 15, and that should drop to about 5% in the future when you're more established. And the reason for that is that you're now coming off the ground. All right, you need to get your brochures, your website, etc. Plus, you need to get into the market and get some client in, and you need to, the cost of acquisition is going to be higher as you're now starting. Okay, profit and loss and balance sheet. Of course, if you're making a loss, it impacts your cash flow. Fair enough? And your profit and loss, the net profit or loss goes into your balance sheet in terms of retained earnings. Okay? And usually when you look at a balance sheet and you see negative retained earnings in a business balance sheet, you know something is wrong. The business is not making money and they may be going into insolvency. So appendix. Not the appendix in your body, the appendix in the business plan. Right? So, what would be in the appendix? Your income projection. Usually, it is normal to do a business plan with a 5-year projection. Okay? In the next 5 years, what it would be the sales, and you want to break down those sales by your different services or products. You want to see which one amounting to the highest percentage of your total revenue. Why would you want to know which products or services account for a greater percentage of your revenue when you're doing your planning?